I watched her walk until she was out of sight. I waited until a speck on the horizon had disappeared before I returned to the car. I had too much to do tonight. Too much she couldn't be involved with. But it was all for her. All for her. I started the car. The fire in the engine was burning as furiously as the infernal revenge that burnt within me, awakening a beast which lay long dormant, a beast which had fueled me for 2 years. It dragged me through every two-bit bar in town looking for the information I sought, and every time I beat down one of those scumbags, I pushed harder and tracked down more. The blood was thick on my hands by the time I'd found who I was looking for. I returned to my apartment to pick up what I would need. Simple food. 45s and my favorite hunting knife. I took one last look around. I knew I'd never be back here. Hell, I knew I'd be lucky to finish the job. When you have nothing to live for, death is a reward in itself. Two years earlier, my son had been killed, ripped from my life, leaving a black hole in my being which needed absolving.
No.
A disease called misery, to which revenge was the only cure. The beast in my soul had lain dormant far too long. Time to wake it up. Time to settle a score. Images of my son flashed into my mind, fighting the body, drinking myself into a darkness nothing could save me from. The faceless houses of a dull suburbia repeatedly flashed past me like a bleak, meaningless background. To me, they were nothing but a mockery of a life ripped from my hands. My destination had come into view. My final chapter lay waiting. The end of my misery, the cure to my pain. Sweet revenge. I had finally arrived where I'd been going the last 2 years. The end. I was not afraid to die. In fact, I welcomed it. I had nothing to live for. The last 2 years had torn away the flesh of my humanity, leaving a shell of hatred and pain. There were 2 men guarding the door, and although they were only doing a job, they weren't innocent, merely an obstacle, and they were to die. I snuck towards them, crept like I was part of the surroundings. When I got closer, the adrenaline kicked in. I became a machine powered by bloodlust. Rage took over from old logic and launched me at them. In one long swing, I cut open their throats. No noise, no screams. One step closer. I opened the door, unlocked. It was almost as though I could taste his blood already. An unlocked door was an advantage. He didn't know I was coming. Hopefully surprise would heighten his pain. The house seemed to be empty. I guessed it wasn't. I've never been that lucky. searched the house for him, I could hear voices. I slunk around the corner to see 6 men, all armed, all itching for a fight. And they were big men too. A knife wouldn't do it this time. I need to think of my toes. I checked both guns were good to go. My hands were burning. It felt like fire was running through my veins, and I planned to let the fire loose on the group of men ahead. I started walking. I pointed a pistol at the closest man. I fired before he even had a chance to turn and face me. The remaining guards surrounded me, aching for bloodshed. They'd get it. The bodies fell around me like lifeless rag dolls. A pile of death littered the floor. Each cold blank face represented one step closer to the end. I loaded both my guns and counted bullets. Not enough for a second reload. I dumped one gun and took the bullets. I only needed one gun from here on. The way I see it, I only needed one bullet. I passed another door. I stopped. Asleep on a bed was a boy of about 8 or 9, curled up with his hands next to his head. The son of the beast. I stood over him for a while, seeing something I'd not seen for 2 years, and in his innocence had me contemplating what I was doing here. But when you've been to hell and back, and stood eye to eye with the devil only to see a reflection of yourself, nothing is sacred. Not anymore. I moved on. I had to move on. I couldn't bask in what I'd just done to that child. I had a job to do. I ran towards the door. Kicking it open, he was waiting for me. I ran towards him as he fired. The bullet hit me on the left side of my rib cage. I ignored it. I hit him hard, smashing the gun from his hand and breaking his arm. I grabbed the front of his shirt and held him for what felt like days. I held his life in my hand. The linen of his shirt felt like sinning gold beneath my fingers. I pressed the muzzle of the gun harder into his forehead. Watched his mouth open to scream and ended it. The final shot rang out like a bell, telling me it was over, and that I could now rest. I walked down the hall, clutching my side, and out the front door. I headed towards my car. The wind felt cold and fresh on my skin. It stung my face in a way I hadn't felt for almost 2 years. The beast lay still, no longer pushing me forward. Revenge was finally in my hand. I had won. It was over, and I was complete. I returned to my car and lay on its bonnet. I stared at the sky, thinking about where it all ended. The bodies littering the hall, blood-stained carpets, and the corpse of my demon laying dead in the bedroom. He was dead, and I was satisfied. It was done. Blood flowed from my wound onto the bonnet of the car. Nothing bothered me, nothing at all. It felt strange to be so whole and quiet inside. For the first time in 2 years, a smile crept along my face. I laughed with satisfaction. When revenge is sought, it isn't the kind words of our friends we will remember. It's the silence of our enemies that stays with us and reminds us.